Arizonans have rejected former President Trump. A huge part of that has to do with the fact that he went after the state's beloved senator, John McCain. And that has not been a winning message with Arizonans. So a lot of them are not happy. Obviously, things are changing with the former president's popularity. Maybe this time will be different, but I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, is this a good strategy for Kari Lake to be embracing this figure that Arizonans have rejected?
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by Congressional reporter Samantha-Jo Roth. SJ, a lot has changed, but you've spent some time out on the campaign trail. What are some of the things that you learned?
Well, I think we learned that there's still so much enthusiasm and excitement for former President Trump. People are not as worried about him as they were following the midterm elections. I think we had a lot of people who came out and were very concerned about this red wave that never materialized, and were worried that, it was former President Trump who caused this to happen. But when I speak to voters out on the campaign trail, a lot of them are looking at these head-to-head matchups, with President Biden and Trump. And, in this moment, Trump is either ahead or very close. And I think a lot of them were convinced early on that Trump was going to lose to Biden. And how they're like, well, why do we have to find an alternative when our candidate that we actually want is going to win?
Right.
It just depends on who you ask. Obviously, when you look at the polling, we are months and months away from a general election. Things could change. The president former president is often in the margin of error. But I think a lot of voters are looking at that and saying, well, maybe we don't have to find an alternative. And I think that's a sentiment that I saw throughout the campaign. To be fair, I was in Iowa, where that electorate is a lot more friendly to former President Trump than others. But that's primarily what I was hearing.
So there's some pressure to coalesce around Trump now that he's won Iowa, he's won New Hampshire, and there are some Republican senators who've yet to endorse him. What kind of pressure are they facing?
I think they're definitely facing some pressure. I think, you're starting to see them sort of bend to it. For example, Senator John Thune, the minority whip, he was asked yesterday, he and Trump are no friends. They do not like each other. They do not get along. But he was asked if he was going to endorse Trump, and he said, I will support whoever is the Republican nominee. And if that's Trump, then yes. And we've also seen, maybe Senator McConnell, who is caving in on some of the former president's demands on immigration. Maybe that's a way that it seems like he's sort of bending to his will in some way. I don't think we're going to see an outright endorsement from the Senate Minority Leader. He and the former president do not get along either.
Right.
But I do think that we are seeing, we saw Senator John Cornyn come out in support of Trump. And Cornyn also has not been a fan of the president. He has said, even after the midterms, we need to find someone else. And his calculation has changed. And it just seems like everybody thinks that this is the right thing to do right now. So, yes, there are some that are still holding out a little bit, but others, and I will say also, Susan Collins has said she will not endorse him. So that's also notable, but I'm sure they're hearing an earful behind the scenes from the former president's team.
Absolutely. So the race for the White House isn't the only competitive Republican primary out there. Give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on in that Montana Senate race.
Yeah, so right now you have Sheehy, who is running, and that is sort of the Republican establishment's, they want him to be the only.
Their guy.
That's their guy. He has a good resume. He's fully vetted. But then you also have Representative Rosendale, who is threatening to get into the race. If you don't remember, Rosendale has already challenged John Tester. He lost against him, called him Maryland.
Maryland Matt, I think it was.
Maryland Matt, because of, where he had come from, try to show that he was not, somebody who is originally from Montana, and he just didn't work with the voters. And so now he's threatening to get into the race, and it looks very likely that he's going to. And a lot of Republicans who are in the establishment are a little bit frustrated about this. They really, wanted Sheehy to just go into this race challenging Tester. They're worried about, the money. They're worried about this is going to weaken him. in any way. So that is going on right now, and I could tell you a lot of establishment folks are not happy about it.
So in another Senate pickup opportunity, maybe for Republicans, is Arizona. What's going on with Kari Lake right now?
Yeah, so Kari Lake has been on the campaign trail a lot with former President Trump. Just a couple of days ago, some tapes came out where the chair of the Arizona Republican Party was seeming to bribe her to sit out of this election. He has recently resigned, so that has been a big scandal. But she's really using this, saying, that the party is corrupt, that politics is corrupt. She's trying to root out corruption, and she's running on that.
And the party apparatus is out to get her, basically.
Exactly. And from what we've seen here in D.C., it sort of seems like people are coming around to her. She's received, like a good number of endorsements from Republicans here, and she seems to be doing well with the NRSC. They haven't endorsed her specifically, but she and the chairman, Steve Daines, get along. She's been up here. So I'm not really sure what she's getting at with this, but, it is a talker. She is getting a lot of attention. The big question is, for me, is, former President Trump has not been popular in the state of Arizona.
Right.
He has lost the state of Arizona. So is it a good strategy for her to be embracing him in the way that she has?
She's been leaving the state to go campaign for him.
Exactly. And Arizonans have rejected former President Trump. A huge part of that has to do with the fact that he went after the state's beloved senator, John McCain. And that has not been a winning message with Arizonans. So a lot of them are not happy. Obviously, things are changing with the former president's popularity. Maybe this time will be different, but I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, is this a good strategy for Kari Lake to be embracing this figure that Arizonans have rejected?
Right. Thank you, SJ.
Thank you.
You can read Samantha-Jo and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.